ช่วงนี้ติดตามข่าวภาษาอังกฤษกับไทย PBS World ค่ะ A series of major meetings of ASEAN are taking place in Bangkok this week as Thailand is chair of ASEAN. Major meeting is Foreign Minister meeting or ASEAN Regional Forum are also taking place this week. And when talking about regional cooperation, ASEAN is not alone and ASEAN is not only about 10 member states because for regional bloc, ASEAN has good relations with EU or the European Union with having 28 member states. The European Union and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, are working toward establishment of associations date back to 1977, when official dialogue relations began. EU and ASEAN are similar in many aspects. EU consists of 28 member states with estimated population of about 513 million. ASEAN has 10 member countries consisting of around 650 million. In the past 4 years, EU has appointed the first EU ambassador to ASEAN, Francisco Fontan. This is the last week of his mission for ASEAN. In an interview with the Thai PBS World, I asked Ambassador Fontan to assess strength of relations between the two blocs.
The relations between the European Union and ASEAN are relations that you need to look a little bit like a helicopter. You have to see it from many feet up. It's a lot of people, it's a lot of territory, it's a lot of very large economy with a lot of potential. You have roughly 500 million people on the European Union side. You have more than 640 on ASEAN. Very large land masses, very big economies and growing. You need to keep fairly general in order to get those two agendas together.
Lots of fights, lots of negotiations?
Well, the thing is, to be honest, ASEAN in general terms is a thriving, positive part of the world. You have a lot of young people, a lot of youth, a lot of energy, and you have pretty sustained growth for many years now. So this is land of the future. This is emerging markets. This is this is the future. Asia is certainly the future, and ASEAN is one of the youngest parts of Asia. If you look a bit north, people tend to be older. And same is true on the case of the European Union. So a very important part of the world, because if you get it right here, you will become, as you're becoming, year by year, a pole of stability and wealth. And that will be, of course, very important for your own citizens, but it will be very important for the whole region, a very geopolitical region, and therefore very important for the world as well.
I think you are the man in the middle in terms of being at the front line of EU to look at ASEAN in perspective, to provide macro perspective of 10 ASEAN countries back to your home in EU.
You put it better than me.
And in the past 4 years, there must be lots of change in ASEAN.
It's incredible.
ASEAN community.
It's incredible, really. This is an extremely dynamic part of the world.
What is your executive summary about ASEAN in the past 4 years?
My executive summary is that ASEAN is incredibly closer and similar to Europe than people on either side realize. In ASEAN, they think Europe is very different.
That's been good or bad for ASEAN?
What I'm trying to say is that we are both in very similar boats, in very similar waters. We are both surrounded by very big neighbors. We are all compelled to work together in order to defend our centrality, our level of strategic autonomy. We are only going to be able to decide our own future by working together with each other. We are 28, you are 10. That demands from our leaders that they concentrate not only on their people, but on the whole region. And as a region, on its relations with the neighbors and with the world. That is an exercise that happens all the time in Europe. And that is an exercise that happens all the time in ASEAN at the highest level and at many, many, many levels. So from that point of view, my executive summary is that we are very similar in what created us, why do we work to have these regions together, and I also think that we are, both of us, we are the way forward for the world. I think the world is a world that has to look more and more like the European Union and ASEAN in the sense of working based on coordination and cooperation, not against fighting each other. Mm-hmm. ASEAN for me, ASEAN is a project of peace.
But the world has
and so
changed.
Is the EU. Sorry?
Yes, the world has changed quite a lot in terms of geopolitics, especially in the past 4 years, having
Definitely.
President Trump as President
Definitely.
of United States.
Definitely.
Brexit, still
Definitely.
quite shocking for the whole world.
Definitely.
Does it mean that in the near future, the next EU ambassador, the one who will follow you, will be the representative of 27 countries after Brexit really happened? And what will change the trajectory between EU and ASEAN?
I always repeat the very safe and sound words of my minister that, you know, I am the EU ambassador of the European Union, still 28 member states, so I have to deliver for all of them, and that has been the case throughout my 4 years. What happens in the future, we will have to look at that. And the number of 28 is never going to be stable in any case, because when I joined the EU, that was in 95. We were 12, and then we became 16, and then so it's an open process. It has been growing and growing and growing. I hope that we continue in that direction. So let's see what happens. I really don't think it's easy to speculate about the future. And in any case, in the specific case of the United Kingdom, is a very, very important European partner, and is always going to be. Geography is really stubborn. When you are in Southeast Asia, ASEAN is part of your life. When you are geographically in Europe, the European Union is always going to be part of your life. And at the same time, at the global level, the United Kingdom defends and sustains a number of values and objectives that are exactly the same as the European Union. So we're going to be very strong partners. We have been very strong partners for many years, and that is not going to change. Of that, I'm certain.
So in terms of dynamic of cooperation between EU and ASEAN, what do you think the two sides, in terms of regional cooperation, should do more to strengthen relations between two blocs? I
think one of the most important things is, as I mentioned before, is that highest level political dialogue between our head of state. I think that is essential. We don't have that yet. That should be a very clear objective from both sides. Because if you look at it, in terms of investment, the European Union is the largest foreign direct investor in ASEAN. But it's not the largest or the number one, followed closely by the number two. I mean, our companies, European companies, invest more in Southeast Asia than Japanese, Chinese, and American put together. The second largest investor, if I'm not mistaken, is China, and is way far from us. And that is not because our governments see ASEAN as a place where we must be and invest, which of course also it's the case, but it's because the European companies have been here for a long time, and they know the region, and they are very positive about the region, and they are investing more and more every year in the region. So the trust the European private sector is putting with their own money for long-term investment to ASEAN, in my opinion, is the strongest testament on how much Europe believes in this region.
And tomorrow, listen to what Ambassador Fontan has to say about ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific and how this matters for EU. And that's all of Thai PBS World for tonight. ทั้งหมดคือข่าวภาษาอังกฤษไทย